Good evening and welcome back to the Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. Been a while, been on a sabbatical, but I'm back now. Really looking forward to another season. That might come back to haunt me, but we'll see. But I'm looking forward to another season of hanging out with you fine people and talking about all things West Ham. So that much at least I do enjoy, even if, we've been laying on the misery a bit thick the last couple of seasons. Hopefully this one will be a better one. And just for good luck, I brought my good luck charm with me. It's Gatesy. How you doing, bud?
I'm good, Tom. I am tip top, my friend. Made it to Friday and got this shirt out. I actually wore this
live
to work.
You coming live from the Copacabana? Or?
Nah, not exactly. Just by the Dartford crossing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, the banks of the Thames, Copacabana Beach. It's close enough.
Yeah, you got to try and make the best of it, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it. You know, sort of like sitting there with me, with me mug of cocoa or something like that. I don't know.
Your slippers.
That's it. Yeah, smoking me pipe.
That's as good as anything. Have you been?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. This is my first week back to work. Monday, you know, is when you've had a fortnight off work and you sort of like your alarm goes off and you go, oh, Jesus, that went quick, didn't it? That fortnight. What's going on? But
I just had it myself. I had 2 weeks off. Me and Sinead went to Naples, which was amazing.
Lovely.
Fucking heat was unbelievable though. Like we got off the plane and the heat immediately was like, holy shit. And I said, don't worry, babe, it's just probably heat from the engine, you know, because we were coming out the back door of the plane. I said, it's probably just engines blowing all this hot air at us. So we got past the engine, it's the same fucking heat. And I'm like, oh no, this is the fucking air.
Yeah.
The air is hot. It was unbelievably hot, the air. It was just incredible.
A little bit different from Ireland.
Yeah, I'm not designed for that. We'd be walking around Naples, and thankfully, for anyone who hasn't been to Naples, the streets are narrow streets, really narrow, cobbled streets. They're beautiful, but they're narrow. So thankfully, you can get shade in there from the sun.
Yeah.
But like I said, the air itself is like really hot. So there's no escaping that. You know, incredibly humid. So you're just sweating through your head all the time, like caked in sweat all the time. Your clothes are like soaked. So she would go into the shops, and when you walk through the door of the shop, there's a big aircon blower up above the door, just blowing this really cold air down. So I didn't go in any shops. I literally would stand in the door while she went off looking around and stuff, and I would literally have to stand under the blower all the time to get relief. Like I was drinking. We went to Pompeii. And there's no relief very little relief in Pompeii, but thankfully there was a little bit of a breeze. So whenever you would have to just pop in somewhere where you could get into the shade and the breeze, where you could get both at the same time for a little bit of relief. No word of a lie, we drank like liters of water. That day I didn't piss once.
Jesus.
Like
you were sweating like a nonce at a school sports day.
Yeah, I mean, just unbelievable. But yeah, I think like I would definitely go back because it was amazing. But taxi drivers and stuff were saying, "I'll just come back in October. You'll be fine. It'll be a bit more civilized." It was so hot. I booked to go down into the tunnels under the fucking city.
Yeah,
just to get out of it for a couple of hours, just to go down into the old aqueducts that the Greeks built. Thousands of years ago when they established the city. It was a Greek city originally.
Was it now? Okay. Did you see any of the monuments to Diego Maradona?
It's been there since pre-Roman times. So the Greeks owned everything along the Mediterranean coast, basically. They ran the whole show down there. So they called it Neapolis, New City. So now it's Naples, you know.
Yeah.
But it was Neapolis, New City to the Greeks. And they built these aqueducts that ran all the way from Vesuvius. Because there's no rivers there. So they had to get into the groundwater and run it from the side of Vesuvius, the side of the mountain, all the way down into like Naples. But they're all dried out now. They don't use them anymore. They've got a modern system, obviously, for all that. So you can go down there now to like walk around under there, all the tunnels under the city. It's really cool.
Sounds beautiful.
And his chambers are just huge, like where they had the water coming in through, and you can walk through these really narrow little tunnels that you have to walk sideways through. You can't put one foot in front of the other. You have to like shuffle through them. It was to speed up the water, so it never stagnated and became like nasty. And,
Did you look at it and think, how the hell did they manage to do this all those hundreds and thousands of years ago without all of the equipment that we've got now?
Yeah, it's astonishing. They must have brought in a lot of Irish people, I'm guessing.
Called Conways in. Yeah, get them
in. You know what we're like. You know what we're like. Fucking tarmac. Yeah, we'll fucking tarmac the English Channel for you if you like.
Yeah, that's fine. Get in there.
But yeah, no, Brilliant. It was astonishing. It was an astonishing thing, and not to bore people, I'll leave it at this. But the people of the city during the Allied bombing raids in World War II used to go down there to get out of the bombing raids. And sometimes they might spend 2 or 3 days down there. And there's loads of like drawings on the walls and all this kind of stuff. And there's a pantry there from back in the day. There's loads of stuff down there. And sadly, after the war, because the bombing raids like knocked the shit out of the place, but because the streets there are so narrow and cobbled and, you know, everything at right angles and stuff, you can't really get machinery up in and around there any great way to haul stuff out of there. So the people are like, what are we going to do with all this fucking rubble and destruction? So they put them all down the fucking holes down into the old aqueducts down underneath the tunnels and blocked the whole fucking thing up. But the guys who were doing the tours down there, it was his like uncle and his brother that started clearing it out by hand like decades ago. So you have to go down there literally like buy the fucking bucket load and bring it up. Because of the windy streets, you can't bring construction stuff in there to take it out, and can't get trucks in there, you know. So they've spent decades. They've got about 15% of it done, and so the money that you pay going in there goes to kind of them continually bringing stuff up out of there just to clear out the rest of the tunnels. It's an insane task, but they wanted to do it because their parents had been down there in the war sheltering, you know, and they wanted to bring it back and didn't want it to be lost to history. So
labor and love. Yeah,
it's an amazing place, but sadly we didn't get to do Vesuvius because there was all forest fires on the side of the mountain, so they weren't letting anyone. There was a constant like train of aircraft in a big circle coming in and around, just dropping water down on the side of the mountain the whole time we were there. So sadly, but we're going to go back because it was a fabulous place.
How long was you there for?
We went there on the Sunday. Thankfully, we were able to fly from Shannon, which isn't too far from us here in Kerry. And we flew out on the Sunday. So we were there Sunday afternoon, and we flew back on Wednesday afternoon. So we had Sunday evening, we had all day Monday and Tuesday. And like I said, we did a lot of what we wanted to do, but we'll go back because there's more to do there. It's amazing. That Amalfi Coast is really beautiful.
Yeah, I've heard. I've never been to, I've never been to Italy. That's not actually true. I once did a stopover at Milan Malpensa Airport when I was going to the Conference League final, but that's the only time I've ever been on Italian soil. So, and I've seen photographs of the Amalfi Coast, and I know people that have been there and said it's absolutely stunning. So
it's where
on my bucket list.
Yeah, just off the coast there is the island of Capri.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's just supposed to be really beautiful as well. So we'll probably take that in next time.
And then when I made a car after it. James,
how you doing?
All good, mate.
James, thanks for joining. So we were just shooting the shit while we were waiting for you. A lot of the people in the chat are absolutely bored off their tits.
Talking about aqueducts and cobbled streets and they're sitting in there going, I thought this was a fucking West Ham channel. What's going on? It's like a fucking episode Wish You Were Here.
Yeah, they tune in for West Ham chat and they get to talk about fucking aqueducts.
Well, you know, that's West Ham for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
How have you been, mate?
All right, mate. All right. Another day in paradise, isn't it? Another day at this club of just pure happiness and joy. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm all right, mate. I'm good.
Yeah, it's good to see you both, and thanks for joining me. It's good to be back. So I took a sabbatical for the summer, but I'm back now. Hopefully, be doing it. Well, most weeks, depending on work as well. I should be on. So hopefully we'll have a bit more to cheer about this season. But hasn't been great so far. But I'm gonna start with what I said we're going to start with because it is the thumbnail. So obviously wonderful news just a month ago or so. Lucas Paqueta cleared of all charges, which was wonderful to hear because there were times last season where certain little snippets would come out about the trial, and some of it you were thinking, fucking hell, that don't sound too good. You know, he might be banging trouble here. So we were really worried for him. Partly for us too, because there were consequences for us, but really for Lucas, that the club would get by. You know, even if the worst came to the worst, we'd manage. But it would have been the end of his career, and of course would have destroyed his reputation. Even though I'm sure he would have appealed, but it was wonderful, first and foremost, that he was cleared. But then my happiness quite quickly turned to anger when the details started coming out, and we got the report of the decision that was made. Because frankly, the FA should be ashamed of themselves for the way they've conducted themselves with this. I understand the investigation had to take place once they'd received a report from Betway about the betting patterns, but it is absolutely ludicrous that Lucas Paqueta was charged with anything whatsoever by the FA. Even the FA's own legal team disagreed with the FA that he appeared to have a case to answer. That's how ridiculous this is. And I think there's probably some people need to either resign or be fired over this, in my opinion, at the FA. It's completely shambolic. They put that man through hell for 2 years. And we know now Lucas Paqueta, knowing all along that he is completely innocent. And to go through that for 2 years, completely unnecessarily, is a disgrace. I mean, how do you feel about it, Aiton?
Yeah, it's very, very sad for Lucas himself, and also don't forget the people around him. I mean, his wife, who was supported him through this, and the children that would have been around it. Absolutely terrible, and it must have been horrific. I mean, even if you know, I know that I've done nothing wrong, but whether there's people that have done things behind the scenes that have possibly implicated me in some way, shape, or form, I've got no control over that sort of thing. It must have been horrific to go through 2 years, 2 years of his career just with that hanging over him like the sword of Damocles. Yeah, just horrible, horrible situation for him. I'm so glad that he's come out the other side. And I just hope that we can see the very best of Lucas Paqueta now for however long he's a West Ham player. I would hope that it's going to be for a good while to come. But look, if he gives us this season at full throttle, and then I suspect very likely in the summer he will probably say, "Okay, I think we've squared our debt as far as that's concerned," because obviously the club have supported him, the fans have supported him. I think he knows that he owes us that debt, and I think we're going to see a good season from Lucas. I really do. I'm keeping my fingers crossed anyway.
Yeah, James?
Yeah, fame, mate, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? They say they care about players' mental health and people's mental health, and they drag out a situation that they could have sorted out, half the time. I said it on E20. I'll say it again, that the FA are a joke. And he's managed to get through the other side. Do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people would have cracked. I remember the game last year against Tottenham at home when he started crying on the pitch, and he looked like a man who was like trying to fight for his life, basically. And he was fighting for his football life because he was lucky that he didn't get banned for life. I feel for him. As I always say, I feel for his family. I feel for his kids and everything that had to go through that misery, because behind closed doors, you don't know what a man's going through, especially when you know that he's grown up playing football, he's on a lot of money, and his life could change through a decision that ain't in his hands anymore. So he's got through it, and we've got through it as a club. I think that he also affected West Ham to a point because we had a player that we couldn't sell, we had a player that wasn't performing, and what a difference stress makes, isn't it? Like, you take the stress away from a man, and he goes and scores 4 and 4 now, like three for West Ham and 1 for Brazil. So yeah, I'm pleased that he's still at West Ham and he's still here playing football.
Yeah, he's been hard done by. There's no question about that. Like I said, some of the details that have come out, the FA should be ashamed of themselves. And obviously, that is the decision now, Gatesy, that he has to make if he wants to sue the FA. Because certainly it has changed the course of Lucas Paqueta's career. And we'll come to West Ham in a bit. I don't think West Ham will do anything personally, but I think West Ham will probably let it lie. But for Lucas Paqueta, he does have a decision to make. On the one hand, you could understand him wanting to just put all this behind him and get on with his bloody career. But equally, we're taking a lot from him, apart from the mental anguish that he's been caused for 2 years, and it's putting his career completely on hold. He was on the verge of joining Manchester City. I mean, you think about the trophies that he would have won between then and now.
Yep.
He had the Premier League, Champions League, Carabao Cup, and probably missing stuff. He'd have some trophies there, and plus there's the wages he'd have lost. Now I don't know what agreement had been made with Man City or what kind of wages they were talking about, but it certainly would have been more than he was on at West Ham, potentially considerably more. So they have to take in the loss of earnings. Now, I don't know if here they do the same thing as America, where they can sue for emotional damage or whatever. I don't know if any of that has anything to do with it. I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like if I was him, I would not be in a charitable mood, Gatesy, when it comes to the FA on this.
Yeah, I think he's been badly let down by the authorities, the FA. I think they tried to utilise him as some sort of sacrificial lamb. I don't know what their motivation was, whether they were trying to make a bit of a point to players in the Premier League and around the world. I don't know. But, I mean, I heard something about, and I don't know if you guys can confirm what I heard, was that they apparently had his phone for the best part of 5 months, something like that, and then they gave it back to him and said no, fine, and then they asked for it back, and when they asked for it back, he was like, well, I've got rid of it, sort of thing. And then they tried to do him for that. I'm like, what the fuck are you trying to pull? You had the fucking thing for months. If you didn't find anything on it, that should be the end of that. It's a bit like, in a murder case, you sort of like turning around and saying, oh, we're going to sort of take a gun or a knife or something. We're going to put it under forensic examination. They don't find anything. They give it back to you. And then they go, oh, that gun that we gave back to you like 3-4 months ago, can we have it back, please? It's like, what the fuck's that all about? Bollocks.
It is really like I always felt that the FA were going to try and stitch him up. They couldn't find anything on him, and the problem is it's very hard to stitch someone up if there's no evidence. Do you know what I'm saying? So how they've come to the decision that he's not guilty of any charges is telling me that they will try their hardest to find something on him, something so small. And the thing is that they've opened themselves up now because they can be countersued by West Ham and by Lucas Paqueta. Tommy says that West Ham won't sue. David Sullivan will sue anyone for any money, mate, because he knows his loss of earnings. It's loss of earnings towards a player. Because don't forget, we was going to sell Paqueta 2 years ago for £85 million, and he lost out on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see from West Ham perspective. And I'm going to get another perspective. We've got another old bud. Look who it is.
Luke.
Evening. How are we?
Good, mate. And you?
All good.
I'm all right, mate. I'm keeping well enough, and I hope you boys are as well as those in the chat. and
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't know if you were listening, but give us your overview of your feelings on the whole Lucas Paqueta affair.
It's an interesting one for a number of reasons. First of all, it's quite ironic because realistically, if things had gone to plan, we wouldn't be talking about him in a minute. Man City fans would be talking about him, and then he'd be playing for them for last couple of years or whatever it was. We would have been £80 million richer. We might have bought a couple of players that would have put us on the next level, in the next stratosphere, and would have been a pretty different situation the club's in. But as it's gone really weird. I think most people thought he'd probably go down for whatever reason, whether it was the DFA trying to make an example of him, or if he actually genuinely was found guilty, as it turns out. In the most un-West Ham sort of way possible, it went completely our way. He was found free of charge. He was able to play for us throughout. He stayed at West Ham even when the transfer window's shut. We possibly had the ball in our court in the right to sue, and he has the right to sue. So this doesn't really happen at West Ham. We don't really get out luck. We normally got to pay something or another we suffer in some way, but apparently we've done all our suffering while he's been investigated, and that's it. And now if we want to take it further, it's up to us. If he wants to take it further, it's up to him. So realistically, technically, we could probably make either a lot of money out of it, or get something in our favour. So it's a situation I've never experienced as a West Ham fan, and it's not you hear about it with other clubs like Tonali at Newcastle, etc. and stuff. So you don't think it's up to us. Apparently, there's a lot of footballers in the same boat. If it was me, I'd be hounding the FA. Try and get something out of it in West Ham's favour a bit more, but then maybe that's been a bit greedy. Like I've said, we've got things in our favour, and I don't know whether people would actually agree with. Apparently, Sullivan come out and said, "Well, we don't want to have a fight with the FA, so to speak, because we don't want to leave a sour taste in the mouth." For a bloke with his background, that's quite surprising for him to say something like that. But maybe he's got a point. Maybe he would in the future tar us with a brush we don't want to be tarred with, something you can't see in the horizon. But for what it's worth, I'm kind of just glad that football can now do the talking. He can breathe a sigh of relief and carry on kicking the ball out for West Ham, hopefully in the right way, and improve as a footballer and do good things for us as a club. So for me, I'm cool with it. I'm happy and relieved it's gone well for us and him.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing. Look, we have Lucas Paqueta, who's still an asset for the club, and I think we're seeing this season as well that he seems to have that weight lifted off his shoulders. And I want to say before I move on, I have to say hello to Ava. So she said it was a lovely chat about the aqueducts. I don't know if she's being serious or not. Maybe maybe Ava likes aqueducts. I don't know, but thanks, Ava. I know Ava personally, by the way. But yeah, so I suppose to get back to the football, a new season started off pretty horrifically, Gatesy. Really bad, facile defeat at Sunderland, 3-0. And then you're thinking, oh Jesus, right? Because I think most people are probably fully convinced that they're going to go back down. I am. I know I'm one of them. I think they're getting relegated somewhere. I don't think they'll be able to stay up. I don't think they'll have enough about them. And their next game against Burnley probably give you an insight into that. But so that was alarming, to go down almost without a fight on the opening day of the season in a game that you'd be looking at to pick up 3 points. And then you're thinking, okay, look, big London derby at home. Let's hopefully get a response from the players here, where they'll show some fight and show that was, not what the season's going to be. And if anything, that was worse. Because it was a London derby, because it was Chelsea at home, because of the nature of the opening day defeat to a relegation candidate. It was just the worst possible start, Gatesy, and at that point, I think we were all absolutely dreading what might be coming down the line for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I was very lucky enough to get tickets for the game at Sunderland. Did you go as well, James? Did I see? No, you didn't. Okay.
Lucas and Mitch were there.
Yeah, I saw photographs of Lucas and Mitch there. I wasn't sure if you sort of tagged along as well, but I actually managed to go up there with my son and a few others, and it was one of those where for opening day of the season, you're going all that distance against a newly promoted team. You go with a little bit of optimism. There's always that little bit of trepidation as a West Ham fan. You're never totally sure that your team's going to come out the traps sort of flying and all firing on all cylinders. First half, I thought, yeah, okay, this is nothing special, but we're holding our own. And then they scored, and we just didn't seem to have a clue from that point on. The goals were quite concerning when you watch them back. And then you come to the next game. Okay, Chelsea, world champions, but you do expect in a London derby at home, opening home fixture under the lights, you do expect to see a little bit of passion and fight and resilience, and we had none of it. Absolutely none of it. From the moment we went 2-1 down, we just collapsed, just absolutely collapsed. Didn't have a clue. Again, the goals were all very, very concerning. You just looked and went, that is a team bereft of any leadership, of any characters, with any fight, with any spine. Just gutless, absolutely gutless performance in both matches. And then obviously you had the League Cup game. I'm not quite sure how much you sort of look at that and go, but I look and go, that was an opportunity for a trophy that we've squandered, in my opinion. Obviously, we've had the game against Forest, brilliant. That's a little bit of something that you can hang your hat on. But those first couple of games were shocking. And I think for me, and I know that we needed to move some of the players on that were past their prime, but I think we needed to keep one or two of them around the place just for that little bit of character, that little bit of personality, the sort of the leader. I mean, you look at all of those players that we moved on: Antonio, Ings, Fabianski, Kufau, Cresswell. Even if we'd have kept one of them on, just as some sort of link to a little bit further back sort of thing, they've got a little bit more buy-in as far as the fans, as far as the club's concerned. But I do wonder whether that was to our detriment, but it is what it is. Hopefully, the game against Forest is going to be an upturning performance, and the fact that Lucas has started the season so well, I'm hoping that he can inspire his teammates onto bigger and better things.
Yeah, James?
Shocking from start to finish, but it all goes back to our owner, mate. When the owner lines up a manager at the start of the season that isn't fully prepared for what's coming, he's always going to have bad results. Some was bad. I watched the game from start to finish. I thought first half was okay, nothing amazing. Second half we fell apart. The Chelsea game was an annihilation. We scored and then we just fell apart after that. And don't get me wrong, they're a good side, but the way we fell apart was frightening. When the goals were going in, it was just pain, just consistent pain. The Wolves game was a weird one because we started bad, we come back into it, we go 2-1 up, and then we fall apart. And is that a mentality thing with West Ham? I think it is a little bit. And some of these players weren't good enough, and even to deserve to wear the shirt. So there was that. And obviously, you get to the Forest game where everyone's thinking we're going to get a good hiding, and we're going to give them a good hiding, and we beat them 3-0, which football is a weird old sport at times. I think it's a collective of everything. I think it's a transfer window that should have been sorted out before the start of the season. It's a friction with the ownership at the minute and the fan base. And this has been building up for a long, long time. And the Spurs game will tell me everything I need to know. Right, that's the one where that's the next game. And if we turn up against Spurs and we get rolled, then that Forest game is really a lucky win. Other than that, if we turn up against Spurs and we put a performance in, it's a different scenario. But the season's been a bit mixed at the minute. Obviously losing in the cup is one thing, but there's a lot more issues other than not what's happening on the football pitch at the minute. If I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
Luke, I mean, do you think, given what happened in the Forest game and how much better it was than what we'd seen in the previous 3 games this season so far, with ditching the wing back system, and I think giving Paqueta more freedom as well. Like, he seemed to have more or less a free role. He could go where he wanted, get on the ball, try and make things happen. And then he does one thing which I think turned the game on its head, which was to bring on a pacey, tricky winger, which obviously the wingback system doesn't allow for. Do you think that might have been what alcoholics call a moment of clarity for Potter, and that we may see something a bit different after the international break? That maybe something has clicked with him, that, if I let them play some football and give them a little bit of freedom, and maybe not be quite so structured, and maybe not so anal about keeping possession all the time, that maybe actually we've got some good players who might be able to go win some games of football.
Yeah, look, the Forest game was, amazing, to be honest with you. But it was like, I think last season under Lopetegui, we went away to Newcastle and won 2-0, and it was a pretty much flawless performance. But it didn't correlate with the rest of the season. There was no other game that was like it. It was like, where's this been? Where's this come from? Where's the performance been? And it didn't carry on like that afterwards. So hopefully it's not a flash in the pan. But it was. I don't think we've played. Everyone say, "Oh, we didn't turn up against Sunderland and Chelsea." We did. We didn't score against Sunderland and Chelsea. We done well until we went 2-1 up, and then we just completely flummoxed. And that's highlighted how, I think, far behind we were and why we needed the new players to come in, either transfers or some of it was coming. But it's not, football sometimes is not rocket science, and sometimes the most basics and bare obvious are what you need. I think Potter deserves praise if it's him. They decided to go to a quarterback with what's his name, Carl Peters instead of Wan-Bissaka, because I don't think many people saw that coming. I don't think many people saw Mavropanos come in next to Kilman either. So to make those two decisions takes balls sometimes for managers, and if he was the one that done that and went along with it, then fair play, because he's done something that we didn't expect. Maybe even Forest didn't expect. Maybe Forest had been training all week, aiming to do us with 3 or 5 at the back, and they didn't have that opportunity, so that worked out in our favour. Bringing Somerville on was the super sub, but it was a catalyst for us, getting our arse in gear, and also Callum Wilson, who I can't stand, but fair play to him because he come on and he bullied them basically. And as much as I love Fulkrug for his personality, he isn't cutting it at the Premier League at the minute, and I'm really disappointed with that, because I think I really wanted it to work out for him. He seems like a really decent bloke, but
he also got injured playing for Germany again.
Yeah, well, this is another thing. I mean, this is typical. And pre-season he seemed like the most vocal, most that lad in changing room, and it's all gone wrong for him since the season started. But Callum Wilson come on, done his job. Looks twice as slow as Fulkrug, but twice as good at the minute, which is quite strange. But it was amazing that it just took one player to really come on and change things that much. And for too long, I think I was watching a YouTube video in the week that said that most of our attack over the last couple of years has been just through Bowen, through the right hand side. That's all we mainly do, just try and rely too much on that right hand side to be creative and get goals. And we haven't really had the fortitude or the opportunity to have the left side be as dynamic. So now with Diouf and Somerville, if he starts to play regularly, like I hope he does, injury free, we can have 2 sides, both sides of the field, left and right. Just formidable. And, I hope it continues. It's not been a great start. I think there's been a lot of things going behind the scenes as well, which don't help. It never helps at West Ham. We've got Spurs next to home, which is, I think, like James said, that is your marking point, and it will kind of show whether it is just a one-off or whether we're actually going to have a turning point and get better. So there's probably going to be an injury within the next week before we come up. So I'm fully expecting something to go wrong somewhere or anything. But I'm kind of looking forward to it because it's Spurs at home and we've got quite a few rivalry things going on with Kudus, etc. So, but then again, Daniel Levy's just left Tottenham, so maybe that's the spot they need to kick on and do something. And we're the first people to take the bait and get rolled over by him. Hopefully not, and we'll smash him the other way. But not a great start. But hopefully this is the turning point now to beat over.
Yeah, and it's a pity, really, Gatesy, that we haven't really grasped the nettle in the last kind of week or so of the transfer window, because obviously we saw immediate movement when the pressure really came on the board, and then all of a sudden there's two players in the door. Fernandez, we've seen he looked quite tidy in the Forest game. I thought did quite well and grew into the game, but that's to be expected. He hadn't really trained with the team, so I think it took him a little while to figure out his teammates a little bit and the way we were doing things. But he grew into the game and he looks a good player, Fernandez. We haven't seen Magassa yet, and depending on our centre back situation, whether we'll even see him in the midfield remains to be seen, because we might need him to play at centre back, which is where he spent most of his time. I think last season for Monaco, he made some appearances as a DM, but I think he's actually a centre back by trade, and he was announced by the club, I believe, as well as a centre back. So people were saying, "Oh, we haven't signed a centre back." Well, we possibly have actually. Just depends on where Potter was planning to use him. So as he could be the centre back signing, and which means we could be still really short in midfield, or perhaps Potter wants to go with Mavropanik, and then, if necessary, to Debo before he puts Magassa there. But so we'll wait and see where he intends to play him. But although we had a little bit of movement late in the window, Gates, it doesn't seem like it was enough. We needed a striker in the door. It's about as predictable as it gets that Fulkrug is injured, and it seems only a matter of time before Callum Wilson goes down as well. And then we're back to square one with Bowen playing up front, where he's largely ineffective.
Yes, once again, it's just everybody can see the problems. I mean, we've needed a proper striker for years now, let's be completely honest. And as I say, after those first couple of games where you're looking at, at headed goals, set piece goals, and some of them are coming from players that are shorter in stature than the centre backs they're beating, that should never happen. I'm sorry, that should never happen. But it is what it is. Look, we are where we are. I'm glad that Fernandez we got over the line. That was another deal that just seemed to take an inordinate amount of time. There was all of the fucking around of they want 50, we offer 30. Everybody knows that it's this to you, to me, to me, to you bollocks. And eventually they'll meet somewhere in the middle. And that was exactly what happened. Just stop the fucking around and just come to an agreement, get the money signed over, and you should have got him in for the first game instead of the third or fourth, whatever. He could have made it. He could have made a difference in those games. You'll never know. It's gone now, but we massively needed a centre back. We've obviously got that Igor Julio on loan. Not too sure how that's going to work out, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's reminiscent of Craig Dawson, because he wasn't really fancied at Watford. Watford fans were all saying how crap he was. He comes to West Ham. He stays on the bench for probably the first 10 or so games. He gets an opportunity and he never looked back. Whether this is that happening again remains to be seen. But it was a transfer window that was okay. But I think because I worked it out the other day, we let first team players, we let 13 go from the end of last season, all told, and we've brought in 8. So the squad is lighter in numerically by 5, and I also think that it's lacking in a certain amount of quality and leadership, and I'm hoping that doesn't come back to bite us on the arse.
Yeah, it's been an underwhelming window, James. there were certain positions that you felt were vital for us to strengthen in, and we just haven't done enough in those areas. I mean, had we gone into this season with Emerson and Scarles as our left back options, I don't think any of us would have been too upset by that. I think most fans think Emerson is a good player. We love Scarles. He's a youth team player who we all believe, I think, is going to be a really good player, can keep improving with more game time. It just seemed bringing in Diop, who might be a really good player, we'll see. But that was fine to bring him in, but not at the expense of other positions, I didn't feel. I didn't think it was necessary to do that. You want to bring in Walker Peters and get rid of Sofal, okay, fine, I suppose. If you want Walker Peters there instead of Sofal, yeah, okay, whatever. Goalkeeper, yeah, it was a position probably did need some looking at. But again, I don't think it was like a top priority. It just feels like the midfield is still a bit precarious. I mean, we don't know much about this French lad. So he's 21. We'll see how he goes. He didn't make too many appearances, Magassa, for Monaco last season. So he wasn't, it was not like he was this young superstar in Monaco's team either. He was on the bench mostly. So we'll wait and see what he brings. But it looks suspiciously to me like we're still going to be seeing an awful lot of Ward-Prowse and Souček in that midfield, which is a problem because they have some qualities, obviously. Souček is fantastic for popping up with a goal here and there. He might score 8 goals over a season, which is very good. But in open play, it's just slow and ponderous. Ward-Prowse the same. Ward-Prowse just plays everything safe. He doesn't do anything to hurt opponents. He's, again, a bit slow, a bit ponderous. Well, you worry about that. And the striker situation, we seem to be talking about this every single year without fail, James. And it may be the single biggest failure transfer-wise of this club since PSG took over. And it's really frustrating that we're still talking about it in 2025, James.
We've known for years that Mikel Antonio was going to be leaving West Ham. And how they've not pinpointed the striker, young, up-and-coming striker, to come in and be the next generation of centre forwards. And we've got 2 aging, injury-prone players who are our centre forward. One of them who's currently got a slight injury now. It's just borderline embarrassing. I think the window was just to cover up spaces. Right, it was supposed to be a major rebuild, and they didn't even start really. Do you know what I mean? Signing 6 players, I don't think is enough when you need a lot more depth in your side. Now we've now only got one competition now to aim for, and obviously we've got the league. I think their aim really is to stay in the league, and that's what it is. Just stay in the league, and that's what it'll be. It's not good enough. It's not acceptable anymore, and it's not right. It's simply not right. We've signed Fernandez, who I think is a good player. I was having many disagreements with people saying, "Oh, it's too much money." You've got to pay the money to buy quality, and if you overpay for him, yeah, it will help us long term because he will hold his value. One thing West Ham have done this summer, which I'll give them credit for, is they've signed assets. They've signed young players whose value is only going to go up, not down. And Callum Wilson has come in as a bit of a sort of a free hit, but Malik Dew's value is going to go up. Fernandez's value is going to go up. Magassa's value is going to probably go up to a point. So they've done well in that aspect, but we needed more, and we didn't get it. And this is where the Potter thing, where the Potter in, Potter out thing, which is going around now, I think it's wrong. I think people are throwing Potter under the bus when they should be throwing the man upstairs under the bus. And yeah, it's been a hard summer. Right, anyone who's been covering it on YouTube, it's been hard. Like to sort of monitor it, go through the motions of it, and it ain't that. It's from start to finish. Selling Kudus to Spurs, the John Victor, Mads Manson situation, the Callum Wilson coming here situation. There's been so much, and I think it's a boiling pot at West Ham at the minute, and I think it's going to blow up sooner rather than later for me.
Yeah,
I'll
and
be
then
honest.
and that, Luke, is before we even talk about Aguerd. So we've had the whole Aguerd situation where that kicked off all of a sudden because he was playing, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'm not playing anymore. It's like, I don't know what exactly has gone on behind the scenes there. He clearly seems to have been agitating for a move away, saying, look, I'll play if you want me to play, but I still want out and I still want to be sold. And maybe it looked like nothing was going to happen there, and so he went on strike. But on top of everything else, Luke, it seems to have caught everyone at the club by surprise because we sold him very quickly to Marseille, and I actually think we did well to get as much money as we did for him. And then we were scrambling around trying to replace him as quickly as possible. You want players to act professionally, Luke, and from Aguero's perspective, I mean, he's let himself down there. That's you don't act like that.
But he's letting himself down. But this is the point that we made on Twitter when Mark Gehi didn't get his move to Liverpool because he acted professionally, he acted respectfully, and he's still at Palace. And two players in the Premier League who refuse to play for their clubs, Isak and Wissa, both got their moves. So there's as much as we would all like players to be professional and have respect. Basically, if we were in their shoes, what would we do? Honestly, what would we all do? Because we're not, unless we're playing for West Ham. They got short careers, right? I'm not backing anyone up for doing this, right? But Aguerd has wanted to go for a little while. So he apparently even got to the point where he's trying to stop players coming to the club. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. There's no doubt in my mind, right? The players we brought in when we've just lost to either Chelsea or Wolves, and they come out the owners saying, "Well, David Sullivan will now take charge of transfers because he's had enough." And then the players he brings in are just Graham Potter signings all over. So it was like, okay, so this wasn't you going on your phone to the agents and getting a player in. It's getting players that were clearly said to you that we want these players in. He didn't want to pay out at the time.
Potter was never the one who was going to buy him.
No, but that's what. But finally, he put his hand in his pocket and went, right, okay, well, I'm the hero here because I just bought these players. No, because you didn't identify these players. These players identified to you. I don't give a fuck.
We were in talks for Fernandes weeks ago.
3 weeks.
I personally couldn't care less that Aguero wanted to go. My problem is that when you know a player is unhappy for a long while, you don't have a contingency plan to go and find someone new. So we got 20 minutes. I ain't asked that Aguero's gone. We got money.
But whose fault is that though, Lou? Because whose fault is that? Because on the one hand, you can look at that and say that Potter's got a player there that he knows he's unhappy. He's tried to convince him to stay because this owner won't invest any money into this club to help him get the players he needs. Like, I feel like the blame is being put on Potter in certain aspects where I don't believe it's deemed worthy. Like, no one could tell me he wants a back three of Aguerd to Debo and Kilman.
He might have wanted it to start, and then in a couple of games in, thought, actually, no, I made a mistake here. I don't want this, which can happen, does it?
I just feel like he's going with Mavropanos because he's the only one who can header a ball, right? And the situation with Aguerd was going all throughout the summer. Yeah.
I don't know what impression I'm giving you, but I wasn't having a go at Potter.
No. But what I'm saying is, like, it's not so much that, but it's not just the Aguerd situation. It's the Lucas Paqueta agent situation last Saturday night. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we're all sitting there Saturday night, and the next thing you know, we've got Aston Villa, £47 million Fabriziano. Here we go. You know, that to me just tells me all I need to know really about this ownership. Like, this is an ownership thing, right? And we're probably going to speak about like the owners in a minute, but for me, like, the owners have, well, not the owners, one man has dragged this out for so long. He's now finally been exposed for what he really is. So, you know, it's a shame, but it is what it is.
This well, hopefully it's just the fire that is being lit, the match that's being lit is finally.
I think, you get the feeling that Sullivan thought that maybe he was kind of staving off these potential protests by making a couple of late signings. But I think the signings he's made, I don't know how much impact they'll have overall. Again, it'll just come down to how Potter approaches the next few games, I think. And like the attitude, obviously, against Forest was much better. I don't know if the fan kind of unrest at Molyneux had anything to do with it. Where the players maybe felt like their bottle was being questioned, their desire was being questioned,
Bowen's wasn't.
their work ethic was being questioned. Like, how much do you even care about winning games of football? And I don't know if that had anything to do with the response up at Forest, but it's obviously premature to say that that's a turning point. We don't know that yet. It may prove to be, it may not. What's your gut, Gatesy? Does it feel to you like maybe we've turned the corner, or do you think it was just a flash in the pan kind of thing, and what we've seen really since January from Potter is more likely to be the reality going forward? Because I think that was win number 6 in around 20, 22, 21, 22 games. So while I understand none of us are getting carried away, I mean, do you think that will have changed something, Gatesy?
I guess we're only going to find that out in the next couple of matches. You know, if we can't capitalize on the positive momentum, and look, it was a great result, but let's also, and I'm not trying to do the result down, but 82 minutes in, it was still 0-0. If that substitution doesn't happen, it's a different game. And it obviously it did, and it turned the game in Potter's favour. But can we build on that? It's no good if we win one game and then lose the next 3 or 4. Absolutely
I'd take 0-0, by the way, me personally.
Yeah, listen, I'd have taken a 0-0 prior to the game, Luke, 100%. So to come away from there with a 3-0 victory is no mean feat.
That's so safe. Like, I think that's. I think I
wouldn't started, mate.
Look, don't get me wrong. It's not.
Sorry,
before the game, you'd have taken it. You'd have taken the point.
A point away at Forest is a good point, obviously. But if it had been like a drab 0-0, would we really have been thinking, fucking, that's more like it? We're on the board, guys. We're up and running.
True.
We wouldn't. We'd have said that.
No, but that win was like.
We were terrible. Fucking bore draw 0-0. And yeah, it's a good point on paper, but it doesn't do anything for us, really, does it? But the important thing for me is the manner of the victory more than, you know, if we'd have drawn like 2-2 or something, and we'd have really come out and played really well, scored a couple of really good goals on a spate of other chances that we just couldn't quite take, and we really looked good. That kind of draw, I would be like,
I think
also better. Because I think for me,
0-0.
Yeah, I think for me, the good thing about it was that those last 8 minutes where we got the 3 goals, there was quite a few interesting little subplots. You've got obviously the re-emergence of Crescencio Somerville, who came on and absolutely changed that game dramatically. You've got Bowen, who scored the goal, who a couple of days earlier is having a Barney with one of the fans away at Wolves.
Yeah.
You've got Paqueta, who's just won the case against the FA and looked $1 million. And you've got Wilson, who we've all berated, myself included, and I still don't think that he'll necessarily be someone that will score a bucket load of goals, but I hope that I'm proven wrong. Comes on and obviously, yeah, exactly. And this came within 24 hours of Aguirre sort of throwing his toys out the pram.
And also the Paqueta thing.
The Paqueta thing that is he going to go to Villa and all that, which turned out to be not quite the case. Well, obviously it wasn't, because he played the game and he's still here. So, yeah, I mean, look, will this be a turning point? I don't know. I don't think anyone truthfully knows. I hope it is, but let's wait and see where we are in a couple of days' time, because if we lose the next 2 or 3, this was just a flash in the pan.
Yeah, I mean, it would be unbelievably disappointing if we come out in another London derby, this time against fucking Tottenham, fucking Tottenham and reverted back to the wing backs and reverted back to type, conceded 3-4 goals, lose. I mean, that would be kind of unforgivable, really, Luke, wouldn't it? I mean, there would just be no excuse for that happening.
Yeah, I don't know why he would do that. There is a default method of keeping a winning.
Managers are stubborn fuckers sometimes.
They are, but there had to have been some reason why you would change that dramatically at the back. Maybe he just thought he had a better midfield option with Fernandes being there, so he had some legs. I thought, you know what, I can revert to a back four now. But you know, Mavropanos wouldn't be the first name I thought he would pick, given that it was Todibo.
Do you know the reason why I think he done it? Is because he only had 3 centre halves left at the club, and if he goes with a back three, one of them gets injured, then he's in trouble.
Oh yeah. So numbers, it's not.
So
numbers,
you know, like for me, listen, like this has been coming for a long time in regards of like the negativity. It's been building up. You know, this is not now. This has been happening over the last 2 years. Like last year was bad. The appointment of Junior Lopetegui was bad. The sacking of him, right? Not only sacking him, but the way we sacked the man, right? Then you got the Graham Potter appointment. Then you got the summer of and the thing is, I think it's all really sort of stemmed up from the Mohamed Kudus sale to Spurs. That's the one where people started to look and go, now you're going over the line there, right? You don't really care about West Ham as a whole. You're looking at it from a financial point of view. And to go and sell Kudus, whether you like him or not, to Spurs and giving him a player, I think it's just going over the top. Obviously, the season has started mixed, and obviously it has to continue in a better way. But obviously, when you got planned protests and things coming up, it could affect us on the pitch, which is the balancing act between what's more important on the pitch, off the pitch. Where do you find the balance?
I'm glad to. I don't know if I can answer this quickly. I'm glad you come to a segue. I'm not going to make this a long one. I'll just get to a couple of points. But first of all, the whole support the team, not the regime, is a really interesting thing because on one hand, say there's things like boycotts and walking out at a certain time during a match, but that will affect the team.
Well, the suspense is killing us. You know, the suspense.
He's doing this on purpose. But just to actually touch Gatesy on the protests that are being organised at the moment. Is it Hammers United? It's been kind of building, hasn't it, for a while now. And you did start to wonder, like, if the fans would ever kind of reach a kind of breaking point. But it does seem to be coming now. And I don't think anything that Sullivan did in the last few days of the transfer window is going to change that. Results on the pitch can alleviate frustration a bit, but that's what it would take. And I'm not sure if even that now will save him. Do you think there's too much momentum there now, and that these protests are going to happen now, regardless of results picking up? And ultimately, what do you think can actually be achieved realistically, Gatesy, with these kinds of protests?
Well, the thing that I think has changed from before, and a lot of people have mentioned it, is the fact that there does seem to be a little bit of a narrative shift as far as the media seems to be concerned, the mainstream media. In previous times where there was any sort of protest movement or something like that against David Sullivan, it would always be downplayed, like the group of supporters outside the aquatic centre. Oh, it's only a couple of hundred, and it's like, well, it's actually probably more like a couple of thousand, but never let the truth get in the way of a good story. I think that the media have got on board. That is something we're going to need to try and capitalise on, as far as I'm concerned. I will be making every effort to be there for the Palace game to make to make our feelings known. And I think I would encourage every West Ham fan that is able to be there, even if you've got no intention of going to the game, to actually be there, be a visible presence, because it's no exaggeration as far as I'm concerned to say the world is watching.
I completely agree.
That's the thing that's been a little bit different, James, which has actually been nice, is that the sports media are actually reporting on this properly, which we haven't really had before. I remember, you remember the protests that were there previously, was it before COVID or just after?
Yeah.
COVID ruined them, I think, didn't it?
Yeah.
And the paper was saying that, there were a couple of people protested it, and there were way more than a couple of hundred. But they were reporting at the media that a couple of hundred people turned up, protesting this. So they were playing it down. Why, I don't know. But it seems to be a bit different this time, James. The sports media seem to have an actual interest in what's going on at West Ham right now.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, is that the media is Sullivan's kryptonite. 100%. Because he can't control the media. And the media are starting to pick apart what's really going on at West Ham. For me, yeah, this has been coming. People need to make a stand. And one thing I've noticed, and I've noticed it, especially doing E20 for as long as I have, people are becoming united. And that is the keyest thing of all, right? It was too much of, we're just going to do it our own way. Everyone's put their ego aside, come together, said this ain't right. We need to make a change. And I'm with Hammers United. I'm with the fans advisory board. I'm with them all because I've been calling for this for a long time. And Sullivan has had a free pass for a long time. Brady walks around like she's like Lady Muck. And they've got a rude awakening. I'm going to be honest, right? Because this is just the start. And the one thing with us is don't take the piss out of a West Ham fan. Like, a lot of people put their money into this club for generations. And 29,000 people walked away in the last 5 years. You don't walk away from West Ham, mate. Right? And you don't. One thing I've noticed, you don't choose to walk away from this club. Yeah, unless you're forced to walk away from this club. And a lot of people are walking away from this club because they've had enough. And on the 20th, it's going to be interesting. The only fear I've got, and this is the one fear I've got with this protest, is what happens when everyone gets to them gates and people decide, I want to go in and watch the game. There's people who stand outside. That's where the divide could come into play. Yeah. With me, I have a set foot in there. So it's very easy for me to turn around, walk to the station and end up back at home. Can people handle standing outside and not physically going in there? Because it's like heart over head. That's the real thing. And everyone's doing their bit. Everyone's going on like social media to see a comment there. Right, we've all done our bit. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, this owner, we deserve better than what this owner serves us up. And this owner serves us up a club that is in a rented accommodation in the middle of Stratford. We have 60,000 fans, right? And we witnessed how big we was from Prague. When we was in Prague, we won that trophy. We had 40,000 in Prague. The next day, we had 250,000 people on the streets of East London. West Ham's not a small club. And we run like a small club. And I think the tide is starting to turn in regards of people's opinions now. Because people have had enough. They really have. And it's sad, Tommy. It really is, because there's going to come a time where West Ham are going to be playing games. There's going to be people outside. But this is for the greater good. And as someone who's been preaching this for a long time, yeah, I know once he goes, things will change at West Ham for the better, and I really can't wait for that day, if I'm being truthfully honest.
Yeah, well said, James. And I know you have been banging this drum for the longest time. I've been on your show with you. And you've been on this show many times saying the same thing, that look, ultimately you can change as many managers as you want. You can buy and sell as many players as you want. But until Sullivan is gone and Brady is gone, it's going to be shit. So, and I don't, to be fair, I think I agreed with you. I just don't think I've ever really felt like there was any genuinely feasible way to make them leave, and I'm still not convinced there is. But I will absolutely 100% get behind these
We have to
protests.
try.
Yes, absolutely. I completely. I don't want to poo-poo anyone who's trying to make this happen. I'm 100% behind it. 100% behind it. And it did feel, Gatesy, like the Chelsea game, just something changed with the fan base in that Chelsea game. There were there was a few fans that tried to get on the pitch in that game.
Yeah.
And it felt like, okay, it's not exactly Burnley, but it felt like the tide had turned.
Yeah.
And I think Sullivan sensed it as well.
I
And
think
the
it's been,
media
if I'm
sensed
being
it.
honest, it's been building for a good many years. There's been a certain level of toxicity that's
Yeah.
been building around.
But my worry
the
was
club.
that it was just leading to apathy, rather than action. So I was worried that I was thinking, like, is there ever going to be a breaking point for the fans where it's like, okay, enough with this. We have to take action and we have to take it now.
What it
That
is,
didn't
Tommy.
happen. But I was
Yeah.
just worried that that day might not come, that people might just walk away from it. A lot of people haven't renewed their season tickets. I thought it might just be more of a silent kind of protest where people were just, oh, fuck this. I'm done with this. And that they would just get tourists in the seats or whatever, that nothing would materially change. So I'm actually very happy that there does seem to be a sea change now in the attitude from the fans that are like, okay, enough with this. It'll be interesting to see what effect it can actually have on an owner and a chairperson in Karen Brady. I mean, I don't know how this plays in with people like Kretinsky and Trip Smith, etc.
Yes.
Yeah, but what it is, he's going to force his hand, though, isn't it? What it is, we need Sullivan to either do one or two things: invest in this club or leave. And either way, like we all know, he don't invest, so he's going to have to leave and he's going to have to go. And I keep hearing this argument from people, and it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on it. But people say, "Oh, well, he ain't going to leave. He's not a billionaire on the corner who's going to buy West Ham." West Ham is a Premier League club that can be bought by someone who has a lot of money. The issue we've got is that we don't own nothing. That's the problem, right? We don't own the ground. The training ground is up like massive amounts of debt, and he's run up the debt. That's where the problem is. Yeah. And what's something you just said there about filling it with tourists and all that? This is the fear that I've had for about 5 years. I've noticed it each year, and doing YouTube for the last 4 years, you start talking to a lot more people. Rob, you know this. Tommy, you know this. If we're doing this, you start talking to people, you start meeting people.
Yeah.
What it is that each year that goes by, thousands of people are walking away from West Ham. If this rate continuously goes on, you're going to have a ground full of football fans and no supporters. That's just a fact, right? You're going to be people in there watching a football match, but having no feeling towards the club that they're actually watching.
Wandering around in Arsenal shirts and Liverpool shirts in the home end.
Yeah, and it'd be like a franchise scheme where basically you go there, you have a day out over the London Stadium, you watch a football match, you go home.
A lot of Premier League atmospheres are dying, A lot of grounds have got this problem. I've seen there was one Liverpool fan even just a few seasons ago who was talking about it very eloquently, actually. I don't know if you all saw that clip at the time. It went quite viral. He was talking about the atmosphere in Anfield, even, he said, is gone down the toilet because there's just so many people in there that are just there for a day out to see a Premier League match. They're just sitting there watching the match.
Probably watching it through their fucking phone,
watching the match through their phones.
Yeah.
They're not fans of either team. They just wanted to experience a Premier League game. It's killing Anfield.
I think we're further ahead in that evolution
than many other grounds in the Premier League. I think you still have some where they don't get as much of it. We do still have a bit of atmosphere, like Leeds. I think Elland Road is amazing, but it's a Premier League wide problem, and especially as a London club, and given the size of that stadium, where there are always going to be probably quite a few seats for the vast majority of games that can be bought for tourists. If more and more fans are walking out, Gatesy, those seats are being filled by tourists, and it's just going to be completely lifeless in there. It's not great right now.
it's awful right now. I mean, the game that really sort of made me question whether I was going to renew this year was the game against Leicester, and we scored a second goal. It was a crap game, and about 8-10 rows in front of me, there was some Japanese students, and one of them took his hoodie off, and he had a fucking Brighton top underneath. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, he's watching West Ham versus Leicester. He's swanning around in a Brighton top. Nobody fucking challenged him. There was loads of people sat round him. Nobody batted a fucking eyelid. I'm like, if you'd have done that in the fucking Bobby Moore Lower at Upton Park, you'd have got your fucking skull caved in.
Do that in the chicken run.
Yeah. Ridiculous, mate.
Yeah, but you know what
I think we're further. I think this is a Premier League thing.
Yeah.
I think, as you said, there's other clubs that it's affecting. It's not just us. But the thing is, I think we're further along in that evolution than most other clubs, and I think part of it is the stadium and all the rest of it.
I think that one of the problems at our stadium is a smaller number of West Ham fans who are trying to still generate some atmosphere can't do it in there.
No.
If you're in a smaller ground, if you're at Elland Road, even if there are some tourists in there, you still will have a stadium that's compact enough and that is still able to generate noise so that less fans can still generate a nice noise in there. You can't generate fucking noise in there.
See, the thing is, I had one of the boys come on from Irons Work Alliance on E20 the other day. Jay done a video with him, and he said he's having problems trying to get banners in there now, right into the stadium, because like it's all about like loopholes and rules and regulations. But you can see banners at Crystal Palace and things like that. What it is for me is Sutherland's got it completely locked down in there, and he wants it that he has day trippers, families, because they're not going to question him, but the hardcore will. Like the hardcore, if you've got 40,000 hardcore fans who are prepared to walk out, that shows up on every media screen going, like walking out on a Sky game. And if you have noticed, one of them games is a Sky game that they're boycotting. That's for a purpose. That's to get it going around the world. What I would have done is I would have gone in the ground and then I would have walked out after 20 minutes. So the shock factor comes into it. But the problem is with that, it affects the team. So you can't win either way. But it's sad.
I think affecting the team during a game is the lesser of two evils. To be honest, by far, I think it would still be worth it, and I think the players would understand this ain't about them.
Yeah,
the manager would. I think Potter would already know like this isn't about me.
But it's not good though, Tommy. Like, and this has been a situation that it's sad, really, when I think about it. Like, do you know what I mean? We all remember Upton Park, right? And it's very, what's the word? It's generational for me, right? A lot of people have grown up with the LS and they don't know no different, whereas I haven't. Like, I've grown up Upton Park, and I walked away in 2016 and said, right, I can't set foot in there because of the way he's carried on. The issue is now is West Ham's identity. Like, no one really knows two things, really: what the plan is for West Ham's future and the identity of the club. The identity of the club is very much shadowed a little bit. Like, it's West Ham London. Nothing really feels like I look at the badge that you've got on your shirt of the castle and the cross irons on that. Like, that's what you used to see when you used to walk into Upton Park. It's the big cross irons and like the castle. Welcome to the castle, basically. And how it is right now it's only going to end one way for me, and it's going to end by him leaving. And as fans, we're going to have to recover the situation on this one and get behind the team and get behind the new owner. Yeah, but it's going to take time, because I don't think he's going to go quietly, Sullivan. Yeah, he's not a man who goes quietly. But I will say this, to land on this before that you land on anything you want to say. I had a Birmingham fan on during the summer, and a Birmingham fan told me fan pressure when Sullivan was at Birmingham was the reason what pushed him out. And he literally said to me on E20, he said, James, if you get the fan base all over Sullivan, he will buckle under the pressure. And I'll stand by that. And I believe if Hammers United, the Fans Advisory Board, Irons Work Alliance all come together, eventually Sullivan's going to have nowhere to run. He's either got to, and as I've said, he's got two choices: invest or leave. You don't invest, so I think he'll probably leave, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing, and we need to crank up the pressure massively now and keep it going until it reaches a breaking point. And because, look, at the end of the day, Sullivan's just going to keep doing what they always intended to do, which is to run the club as cheaply as possible. Which is why they sold Upton Park. They're renting a fucking stadium. They don't have to pay for virtually anything in there. They're renting it for very, very cheap. They don't have the running costs. They have put the absolute bare minimum into infrastructure at the club. We have League One level training facilities, for Christ's sake.
They're not even that good.
Yeah, you can probably find League One teams that have better training facilities. So they're just trying to keep the club afloat in the Premier League for as cheap as humanly possible. Like, the investors were perfectly free to add around £90 million of their own money into the transfer committee this summer, had they wished to. Something the Forest owner does regularly, by the way. Puts his own money into it because he actually has some ambition for the club, as we've seen. Sullivan has absolutely no ambition for West Ham. He just wants to keep the club afloat until he can sell it and make a nice, tidy profit from the sale.
What it is, Tommy, what it is, right? He wants to get his hands on that ground, and he's having trouble getting his hands on that ground. That's like the whole point.
Here.
Yeah, the LLDC, right? The London Legacy Development Company, I think it is, or something like that, is basically holding back on that stadium. And Sullivan needs that stadium in order to sell the club. Because I'll ask this to Rob: how much would you say West Ham's worth right now without the ground?
And given that the training facilities probably need to be completely upgraded, you need to build a brand new training facility and
basically you've got a parkside training ground facility, and you've got a ground that you don't own.
Well, you're probably looking at. I mean, the only assets you've really got then are the players, effectively,
and the naming rights probably of the club.
I don't know. I mean, they want 800 million, don't they? Well, there's no way it's worth that, in my opinion.
Newcastle go for 5?
Yeah. What are you looking at? About 300 million?
I'd say about 4 myself, between 3 and 4 in that bracket. Well, it's not worth 500 million. Even if it's a Premier League club, it's still not worth that because nothing's set in stone. Like, nothing's written in writing. Everything is like it's part owned. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's not owned by West Ham. Nothing's owned by West Ham. So, you know,
didn't we remortgage the fucking training ground?
I believe we did.
Yeah,
don't even own that really.
And we're taking loans out with loan sharks and all of that, and it's quite a dangerous.
They'll turn up Sullivan's house and break his fucking legs.
Don't we still have all the debt that we took from Upton Park? Remember when I said we could clear the debt if we moved into the new stadium? We've still got all of that.
Yeah. And the thing is,
it'll future-proof us, and we'll be able to compete at the top level of the Premier League. Well, I'm
convinced it's the only reason he hasn't sold the club is because he knows he's not going to get anywhere near what he wants for it.
He needs that ground. That's what it is. Because what it is, once he owns that stadium, then
he can't, can he? Because it has to go out to tender because it's a government asset.
Yeah, what it is,
I think he was certain that once the penalty period passed for selling the club, you know, the big tax.
That's in 2023,
yeah. Once that passed, I think he was convinced that they would sell him the ground.
He was waiting for that company to go bust. That's what he is. He's waiting. So what it is, they hand it over to him for nothing, or as good as nothing, and it hasn't materialised.
As Ian was saying, like it was bandied about that he wanted about 800 million for it. He's living in fucking cloud cuckoo land.
Yeah.
Someone has to take on all the debt. We'll have a ground that they don't even own, and we'll have to completely rebuild a brand new training facility, which will cost millions. What did Leicester pay for theirs? It was fucking tidy penny, wasn't it?
Yeah, but there was something that came out a year ago, right, about Fairlock Waters, and basically there's going to be a training facility up at Fairlock Waters, which is about It's about 3.5 miles away from Chadwell Heath. Like, go straight
Up
down,
towards
up one,
Barkingside, isn't it?
up near Barkingside, yeah, Hainault way.
Yeah.
And,
My missus
you
used to
know,
work there.
and basically that's gone dead. Nothing of any note. And then they were saying about they was going to move him out to Basildon, which I was never going to do that because it's just miles. You're going miles out the way.
Can't go to fucking Basildon.
So you know, it's a problem there. Do you know what I mean? I think what it is, it's just everything's building up, and I'm hoping that he just goes, you know what, I'm going to sell it. The issue is that who's he going to sell it to? Because obviously last time when he sold Birmingham, he sold them to a flipping criminal. You know what I'm saying? Who's currently in Nick now? Is it Carson Young? I think it is. So
Yeah.
you know, we're in a bit of a situation with Sullivan where I don't know. I think him leaving is a start, but whoever we bring in, as long as they're fit for purpose, then we might be all right.
You'd probably
Yeah.
fucking sell us to Gary Glitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it ain't Stevie fucking Wonder. You can't see what the fuck was going on. You know
I
what I
won't
mean?
lie. I'd probably roll the dice with Gary Glitter and see how it goes.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, just don't let him near the ladies' team. We should be all right.
100%.
But,
Or in a youth teams.
Yeah, look, Doris and laundry.
Let me ask you a question. I've got a question for you. How do you see it going with these protests? Like, what is your sort of prediction on it? Do you think it's going to be all huff and puff, and then
I hope to God it's a success.
Yeah.
I hope to God we stick together and we resemble our club name and we're united on this. And
Yeah.
the people that have talked the talk about supporting this movement show up, because it's the only way we're going to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect it will continue to gain momentum.
This is put up or shut up time now.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of fans who'll kind of see it, see all the media reporting of it, and more fans, I think, will join the protest. So I think it will crank up very quickly once it starts. Fingers crossed. But I think the important thing is not to have a couple of protests and then get down. I think the important thing is that pressure needs to be applied, and then you got to keep it there. You have to keep the pressure there until something materially changes that will affect the long-term future of the club in a positive way. So what that will look like remains to be seen, and it will certainly be interesting to see how Sullivan plays this, or what ultimately comes of it. I don't pretend to have a clue, really, what's even possible ultimately. But like I say, in physics, absolutely nothing is impossible. It's just a question of pressure and time.
Yeah,
I think he's running out of time, because what it is, I think with pressure, he can mount it up, and eventually he's going to have to make a decision on.
Did you think that the Burnley protest? Did you think like it was coming? Like it feels like they kind of got off the hook that time. They got saved by the bell,
Yeah, I think what it is, he's got no one else to blame there. That's the problem. He can't go and blame Potter, because Potter's only just turned up there, and he needs a major rebuild, and nothing's happening with that. So people's attentions are not they're blaming Potter for what happens on the pitch, but not as a whole. Yeah, but as a whole, everything is pointing at Sullivan. Yeah,
this is a concern I have as well, that Ian has. Is that if we start winning some games, and all of a sudden people kind of lose the desire to protest or to kick off about the way the club is run. I really hope that doesn't happen. Not that I really hope that we pick up our performances on the pitch, start getting better results, and start moving up the table, but that it doesn't stall.
The best way, Tommy, right, that this could be resolved with a bit of pressure is him to come out and turn around and say that he's going to walk away at the end of the season. That's the only way. And if he was to come out and say that, all the fans would just calm down and go, right, he's walking away at the end of the season. But that's it. Right, he's not here no more. The issue is
obviously
I don't think he will.
Dreamland. That would be the dream if he said, "All right, look, I'll sell up."
I don't think he will sell up though, mate. I think he's going to hand it over to his son, which is still a bit of a problem, if I'm being honest. But
Yeah, I wish he'd just fuck off the
Well,
card.
I mean, I'd love to get him out the club ultimately. That would be amazing. We'd all love to see him sell up and fuck off. But to be honest, I mean, I would take him just agreeing to start actually having the club run fucking properly. Like, if he finally could bit the bullet and said, "Look, I'm going to structure the fucking club properly. I'm going to step back. I'm not going to be sticking my fingers in every fucking thing. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to put the right people in place in various positions throughout the club to make sure everything is run properly. We're going to invest this, build a new training ground, state of the art."
The thing is, though, Tom, he 18 months ago, he kind of did that by appointing Stuyton. And that lasted fucking a year and a half.
Oh yeah, I understand that, but I mean,
he's a control freak, mate. He's never going to allow someone else to run the show for him. Do you know what I mean? Because what it is, right? One thing with Sullivan that I've noticed over the years is he's always got his full guy in place. When it goes bad, he always has the person that he's going to blame to throw firmly under the bus. People are not really buying it with Potter at the minute. Yeah, and what he's hoping for is West Ham have bad results. It goes to Potter, and it takes the heat off him. Even so much so that the other day we signed Fernandez and Magassa. Everyone's buzzing. Then 2 days later, it looks like Paqueta's out the door, and that Paqueta thing sort of summed it up for me. It was like, is it Paqueta? Him, and he goes and kisses the badge and makes out basically that he loves his club and he wants to be here, sort of thing. And he doesn't want to go. Or was it Sullivan trying to push him out the door to get his money back again? That's the real question, and that's what I believe. My issue is I just don't see how David Sullivan's ownership takes us any further forward than where we are right now. And if we can go backwards in 2 years, and listen, whatever people thought of Moyes, right? Whatever people thought, and me and Tom have had many barneys over the years about David Moyes, but one thing I will say is he showed us the way of how big West Ham can be. And that's the worst thing that Sullivan's ever done, is employ David Moyes, because now he's opened the door up for every West Ham fan to say, well, we got to Europe, we got to a semi-final, a quarter-final, we won the final. If West Ham had proper investment with an ambitious owner, it's a different ballgame, mate, altogether. Do you know what I'm saying? And we don't ask for trophies. Like, I'm not being funny. I don't, but I'm not asking for trophies. I'm not asking West Ham to go out and try and win a trophy every year. I'm asking for a top 10 finish. You know what I mean? Which is minimal, really, for a club of our size.
Literally, I think all we've ever asked for at West Ham is, can we go out and have a go?
Yeah.
Give it your all, have a go. Every game, just have a go. Put your heart and soul into it. Win, lose, or draw. We'll back the players. Have a go in the domestic cups. You know what I mean? We understand it's hard to win them, and there's bigger teams than us, better teams than us, who probably win the fucking tournament anyway. But just go out and have a go. It's why I loved Pardew. Every cup competition, he went out and he told the players, "We're trying to win this cup. We're trying to win this cup. I expect you to take it seriously." And he came that close, because he took it seriously. And there's a lot of other managers that won't. And so you have an opportunity. If you really try to win a domestic cup, the possibility is there that you can do it. We've seen plenty of teams do it before. You just have to really want it. And that's all we ask. It's like, how many managers do we have now who just fucking throw the cups all the time and they don't give a shit? And it's frustrating. It's like, what are you saving the players for?
Yeah, true.
Saving them for?
It's true.
Crazy.
If we're challenging for a European spot inside the top 10, and remember, European spot could be 8th now. So if you finish inside the top 10, there's a chance of playing in Europe next season. So literally, I think all we ask for is go out and have a go every week. Attack, try and score some goals, try and entertain, have a go. Let's see if we can get inside that top 10, challenge for the European spot. And in the 2 domestic cups, let's have a go. Let's see what happens. Maybe if we get lucky some year, we're going to win one sometime in the next few seasons. But at least let's go and have a go. And I think that would do for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all we want is a team that's going to make the opposition work for those 3 points. That's all we want. Just go out there, play with a bit of courage and determination. If the other team beats us, so be it. Not a problem. But meet them in the centre of the pitch. Have a go, like you say. That's all we want.
And the thing is, we can't keep going back to the old West Ham, but we can't, not now, because when you move to the London Stadium, you move there for a purpose, and I don't believe the purpose has been met. I think it's been bitty at times. The windows have been mental. We've signed players that we shouldn't be signing. Like there's been signings like Roberto at this club. Do you know what I mean? Who's nearly relegated us, and like who's picking the signings? And what it is, like, it's something you said earlier on, Rob, and I make you right, is that Sullivan will never have anyone controlling the environment because he controls everything. He runs that club like his own, well, he's like his own football club to a point, and he runs everything from top to bottom, and he wants to know everything. And he will never stand back and let someone else do it because if they're not doing it the way he wants it to be done, he's going to get involved and he's going to say no, that's it. And that's where everyone's had enough, really.
And he's going to fucking brag about it.
Yeah.
He's been doing it this window again, putting it out there. Oh, the Macaulay wasn't getting these deals over the line. I had to step in personally and get these players in. It's like fuck off, man.
And you know what, Brady and all, I'm going to say this because she's a fucking firm in that one. Like she was on TalkSport 2 weeks ago, on the Sunday supplement, I think it was on TalkSport.
Yeah.
And she said something on there which made me physically sort of angry and sick. And she said that the move from Upton Park would have been harder to compete, but not impossible. And that to me just told me that at the moment you had your eyes set on that London Stadium, you thought, right, get them in there. That's a property investment deal, basically, where you're going to move into a place, pay minimal money for it, and reap the rewards. Like, do you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, people have got this thing with Upton Park and the London Stadium. The younger generation right now, they look at the London Stadium as home. I will never look at that place as home until it's built like a home. Like, to me, that's just a rented gaff that we've got, and it's not really ours. It's just somewhere where we've moved in. Do you know what I mean? And it's never your own house until you own it. Do you know what I mean?
Accommodation.
Lots of fans have had to move stadium, but at least they got something fabulous to move into. Everton most recently, brand new, state-of-the-art, beautiful stadium that they can be proud of, and they can create an atmosphere in and can make home. Like they haven't been sold a fucking lemon. You know what I mean? Like we were. And we're homeless.
And that's the worry, mate. Imagine if anything was to happen with that ground. And that's all under 100-year lease, I think. But if anything was to happen, and you've seen situations before in the past with Wimbledon, like it was homeless. Do you know what I mean? And
we're not even 10 years into that lease, James. The fucking thing's falling apart already.
I know. And this is where it's a problem, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The truth is, we need a new owner or owners who've got very, very deep pockets, who are going to build us a stadium, either on the current E20 site or somewhere else in East London that they can find room.
Let me ask you though this.
And they also are going to have to build a brand new state-of-the-art training facility, and they're going to have to fund all that.
Yeah, but Tommy, I think if you was to ask many, many West Ham fans, and you said, right, you get a new owner into the club, what's the one thing that you want to see happen straight away? I think the vast majority of people would say the stadium straight away. So people would accept West Ham being in the league like they are now, just making sure they stay in the league for the next 5 years so that the stadium gets built how they want it. And I don't think many West Ham fans would have the ump with that. Yeah, as long as the ground was getting built around them and the investment was going into the ground, yeah. And then after that 5 years, you can sort of work off of that. The issue is nothing's happening. Do you know what I mean? And that's the problem. Like nothing's happening. We're just going through the motions, basically. We are literally nosediving towards a situation where we're going to run ourselves. We could run out of money. That's another fear that we've got. Do you know what I mean? Like with all these loans and everything, that's where the biggest fear is. West Ham could run out of money at some point.
Question for you there on the screen, James, if you can see it.
Yeah. James, out of interest, will you return to games on a change of ownership alone, or not until the stadium is sorted out? No, change of ownership, mate. Like once the owner is gone, I will go over there and I will support his club like I did before. The issue is, I look at the owner, and the owner he's lied to many people. He's defrauded people, really, in a way, with like propaganda. And like we all remember them
Yeah.
videos were going around with Brady and everything and all that. Some people don't let that go, mate. And do you
I
know what I mean?
won't.
Nah, like, it makes me sick. Someone put something out the other day on Twitter, and I watched it. I watched the first 3 minutes of it. I think it was. If it was an 8 minute video, couldn't watch any more of it. And that's where it hurts a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? All I want is I want West Ham to come back to how it was, and not be this fabricated franchise scheme that it seems like it is at the minute. Because it feels like to me, and I speak to Lucas about this quite a lot, because obviously he's involved in sort of NFL and all that over there. It feels like it's a franchise scheme that basically anyone who turns up at the London Stadium is a customer, and they don't care about the atmosphere at all, because it's just bums on seats, big shiny ground, loads of people in it watching an event. I need West Ham back to how it was before, where everyone was singing from the same hymn sheet, all in the same direction, not having having loads of fans with other tops on from other clubs, because I think that's an insult in itself. I think if you're going to do a neutral area, you can do that.
Yeah,
You don't
it's called
do it.
Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, or you do it right up in the gods where no one can see you, not
Nah,
in row C.
no, absolutely not for me,
Mix them in
James.
with
I
the
mean,
away fans.
yeah, I just absolutely not for me. That goes against the grain. Having a neutral area in a football
Yeah.
ground, just no. Premier League
It
ground.
is wrong, yeah, I know, but it's just a change of football, though, isn't it? Though at the minute, it just seems like
Yeah. I mean, to be
tribalism's
honest,
gone.
that because I despise Sullivan and Brady so much, that there's a part of me, and I have to be completely honest. There's a part of me that would almost relish getting relegated to the championship, because ultimately I don't particularly care that much if we're playing championship football for a couple of seasons. It wouldn't kill my soul, frankly. I followed West Ham before in championship.
But do you
I
think
don't,
we would come back? Because the difference now is that we
maybe,
would have
maybe not.
about
But the point
30,000
is,
into a
I've
stadium
watched
like
us
that.
play in championship before. It doesn't break my heart that badly, to be completely honest. I know it's not as sexy as the Premier. The Premier League's kind of gone to shit a lot anyway.
Yeah,
But
I'm just thinking the
Well,
atmosphere is shit with
the reason
60,000.
being,
It'd be shit
obviously,
with
is not,
30,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, fine, yeah, whatever. But that's my point, Gatesy. Ultimately, if that were to happen, given all the promises that were made and what the move to this stadium would mean for the club and how it would bring us forward, Champions League football and world class team and a world class stadium, they would. Brady and Sullivan would have absolutely nowhere to hide. If 10 years later we were playing championship football, it would be an utter humiliation. And their complete and utter failure of an ownership would be laid bare, and they would be a laughing stock. And I will take some championship football in my heart and soul, I think, to see them fucking squirm like that, because it would be just so humiliating for them to say, sorry, what did you promise? You're playing in the championship 10 years after the move. You were full of shit, you're incompetent, you're useless, and now look what you've done to the club. After all your promises.
It'd be very hard for me to accept that, even though I understand the segment. I really do.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'd be happy to get relegated. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I want us to get relegated. I'm just
I
saying,
understand that.
should the
Yeah.
worst case scenario come about,
Yeah. Listen, I understand.
I think we could do what happened to Leeds, to Sunderland, where you go down into the championship. I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up going into a spiral where we possibly even go down into League One very quickly thereafter. That I think would be an absolute catastrophe.
Imagine him selling the club for a huge loss.
That actually would be quite funny.
It would do, but
I'm just saying,
Could you
sell it like Ken Bates bought Chelsea for £1, didn't he? All those
Yeah.
years ago in the 80s, he bought.
Yeah, but
he
could you
fucking had to sell it
accept
for an
like
absolute pittance.
like a Leeds situation where West Ham could be down there for like 20 years, like which is a long
Not really.
time. do you know?
I personally know.
Yeah, like I would find that because what it is, we've witnessed relegations. Like 2003 was probably the hardest relegation that I've ever witnessed as a fan. Right, in 2011 for me, we was shit. And yet again, it's funny, innit? Sullivan was in charge then, and he didn't do the right thing by sacking Avram Grant. He allowed him to go.
Don't get me wrong. I know teams like Newcastle and Leeds have gone into the wilderness for ages. I'm not looking for that to happen. I don't want to see it
but what I'm saying is like when you go down, right, it's very hard, like to see all your players go, and you've got to do a rebuild again. You've got to do a rebuild with an owner like this. It would be embarrassing for him, but then he would probably say, you know what, it wouldn't surprise me. He'd probably fire money at it. Do you know what I mean? To get us back up there again. So, it's just the geezer just needs to go, mate. And if we can just keep in this league for as long as we can get him out, then we might have a chance. West Ham's a big club and quite a good, attractive club if we own that ground. The problem is we just don't own that ground, and I think Sullivan's waiting for that. That's what it is.
I'll tell you, I've got a question for you, if I may, James. If the only way of getting rid of Sullivan came at the expense of relegation to the Championship, would you pay that price?
I think I'd have to, mate. I think I'd have to, because I know that an owner will come in with the ambition to try and push West Ham straight back out and get us up the league and out of the Championship as fast as possible. But it's very hard for me. Like, I don't want to see West Ham go down. Like, I witnessed it in 2003 when we lost all our players, and that was heartbreaking. Seeing all the talent that we had, and they just the club sort of fell apart, and we were signing people like, no disrespect, but David Connolly and things like
Andy Melville,
and fucking David Noble and
Malky Mackay.
And some of these players that like West Ham would have signed.
David Noble, remember him?
Yeah, David Noble, mate. What a guy. Oh, Carl Fletcher and all. Just remember Carl Fletcher.
Oh, he was all right. Right.
Yeah, shout out to old Carl.
I liked him.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you go down, it's a rebuild, it's a struggle.
Do they get so many of those cunts with the 50-50 scarves?
Not anymore.
In the champ, I don't think they do. And those wankers running around with buckets of popcorn. What the fuck's that all about? It's a game of football. Wankers.
Yeah, I know. It's just,
it's hard. I wouldn't worry, chat. It's really hard to get relegated now if you haven't just come back up. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like the amount of wiggle room you have to fuck your season up and still not get relegated is unprecedented. It was never like that before. Remember, if you had a really shit season and you got everything wrong, like you hired a really bad manager and you had a really bad transfer window and you had the oldest, slowest team in the Premier League and could barely win a game. Like, I think there was a stat where I think Potter could have not won a single game after he came in and we still wouldn't have gone down. So you know what I mean? Like, it's actually ridiculous now how bad you have to be if you're an established Premier League team to actually get rid. You almost can't get yourself relegated. It would be hard to get relegated on purpose.
Oh, with West Ham, anything's possible.
Yeah. But look, it'll be interesting times. It'll be interesting on and off the pitch for the next few weeks. Like I said, hopefully we're seeing an upturn in form and in results. Well, it would be fantastic to move ourselves up the table. And it's still early enough in the season that if you can get some results, you can shoot right up the table into the top 10 very quickly, into a nice position. So, and things will look very, very different. But equally, obviously, we'll all be keeping a very close eye on what's happening off the pitch. So for anyone who's watching, normally I say, give us a like, comment and all this stuff. But get yourself over to Claret and Booze. On any of the videos there, you can see in the link in the description, there is a petition there to get these fuckers out of our club. So please head over there, sign the petition. It doesn't take very long, and it will make a difference. It will make a difference. I know a lot of people are skeptical about petitions, this and petitions that, but honestly, I think with the momentum that's there now, the petition is gathering momentum as well. So please go over and do that if you can. Take a couple of minutes to do that. So appreciate it if you can do that.
And
let's
remember, it's free. Don't
Yes,
get fooled into
completely
thinking
free.
it costs you anything. It
All it
doesn't.
will cost you is a couple of minutes of your time.
And verify your email, because it's not enough for just put your name and put an email in. You will get an email and you have to click the link to verify it. If you don't, you've wasted your time.
Yeah. Well said, Gatesy. Thank you. I didn't think of that. So look, I really appreciate you being on with me, chaps. It was brilliant to get back
Can
on
I
the
just
show.
ask one question?
Go ahead. Yeah.
There's a comment there from Fly Fox Pro. How many points would London Stadium be worth? To which team?
Well, in the Championship,
the other 19 teams in the Premier League, maybe. Not much to us.
very little to us, I'm afraid. Yeah. But anyway, listen, as always, chaps, really appreciate you joining me. I know I'm not sure it's necessarily easy for everyone late on a Friday, and to everyone watching, really appreciate it. My people in the live chat, love you all. You're great supporters of the show, and I appreciate it. And I really hope you can all be with me again next week. Also, leave a comment to see what you thought of the show. I really enjoyed this one. It's been a bit longer, but I don't mind that. I think some people really like the longer form shows where they can really get their teeth into all things like that. And we had quite a bit to discuss this evening. So I really appreciate you both sticking around for so long. Like I said, we'll have some interesting weeks ahead of us. Fingers crossed, this can continue to build momentum, and we can get Sullivan and Brady out of the club once and for all. They've overstayed their fucking